Wait, wait, is this show about hell or My Little Pony? Before we start, I just want to say the following is a critique of the show itself. Everything I share is purely constructive criticism, okay? Moving on. Well, Hazbin Hotel is finally open for business again, returning for its hotly anticipated second season. After the high note of getting a world record as the most in-demand animated series of all time, Hazbin's next season had a lot to live up to. Now, was it able to meet the expectations of fans and critics alike? Kind of? I'll explain. First off, I can't stress enough how brutal the lead up to this release was for the crew at Spindlehorse. Hazbin Season 2 is probably one of the most leaked seasons of animated TV I've ever seen. And I genuinely do feel bad for their crew for having to put up with that mess. As far back as November 2024, several key plot points were leaked from Season 2, well before the official release was even announced. They weren't just popping up on sites like Reddit or Twitter either. No, the leaks that spread like wildfire were on TikTok and YouTube. Quite possibly one of the biggest nightmares for any production. Unsuspecting fans would see a clip on their For You page, thinking it was a fan animation, only to find out that the clip wasn't only just real, but it also revealed a big twist over a year before it was due to come out. Granted, not every viewer for Hazbin is terminally online, and many of them might have avoided seeing spoilers, but this issue lingered over the entire production, causing a ton of headaches for how the season was handled by Amazon and their merch partners. But the show must go on. Season 2 just finished airing on Prime Video, and I definitely have some thoughts on what we got and where I hope they'll go in future seasons. Heads up, I'm gonna do a major plot recap this time, so if you're watching this, be forewarned. Spoilers ahead for the entire season. With all that out of the way, let's check back into the Hazbin Hotel.
Shitty lighting, clashing themes, and too much red. But I can make it work.
But real quick, this video is sponsored by Raycon. Folks, premium audio is more important now than ever. But so is affordability, especially nowadays. And with the holidays just around the corner, we need to keep our holiday soundtracks going throughout the day. That's why I recommend Raycon's Open Ear Essential Earbuds to keep your holidays going. Their open ear design delivers a breathable, comfortable experience by keeping your surroundings audible around you. They sit right outside of your ear instead of going inside your ear, keeping your surroundings audible while you are delivered crystal clear audio. Now, I own a couple of pooches, a couple of dashhounds, so I like being able to hear whenever they pitter-patter close to me. That way, I don't step on them. It happens a lot. I step on their tail. They go, ah! Poor dogs. It's also refreshing to have earbuds that stay charged longer than others I've had in the past. With these earbuds' angular design, they hook around your ears for a secure fit that is suited for any activity. And as always, they sport all of the features we've become accustomed to from Raycon, such as multi-point connectivity for connection on multiple devices, and 36 hours of battery life for up to 8 hours of continuous playback time. And with a competitive approach to pricing, it's easy to see why over 3 million people have switched over to Raycons. So go give them a shot. You have 30 days after all to make sure you absolutely love them. Folks, Black Friday is just around the corner. So if you or someone you know is in the market for new earbuds, then head on over to buyraycon.com/SabersparkOpen to get up to 30% off site-wide. From the open ear essentials to the latest releases. These early deals don't last long, so hop on while you can. Or hit up my QR code on the screen. Thank you again to Raycon for sponsoring this video. And now, back to the video. Okay, so let's start with what I liked about this season first. Well, the animation is extremely good. Even better than season 1. It's smoother and more refined, with a handful of genuinely gorgeous set pieces. Even as early as episode 2, you can tell how much of the budget they put into making the animation look incredible. Nifty's song was also a highlight. I love seeing the characters in this anime style, especially knowing how popular the show is overseas. Pinchas is a fun character, And it was so interesting seeing the backstory of Alistair. Wait, hold on. Well, that's right. Penn just went to hell because he watched Jack the Ripper kill somebody. That was interesting. Also, we got Alistair's backstory, though I wasn't 100% in love with that too. Both backstories, they're okay. The music was good, gravity slapped, but I still think the music in season 1 was more memorable and catchy. But what about the cast for season 2? What's changed compared to season 1? Well, thankfully, there are substantially fewer characters that were added this season. The original cast was already stacked as is, and they're all still competing for screen time. For season 2, we have Abel, Adam's cowardly son, who takes over his role leading the army. We got Baxter, a new resident in the hotel, but he's too preoccupied working on his biology experiments. We have the Speaker of God, even though she wasn't around for too long. Also, I guess there's a God in heaven after all? I'm not sure. They didn't say there is a God or not, but there's a speaker for God, so I assume that there is a God in heaven. Maybe they'll cover that next season. I don't know. It's a bit confusing. It'd be funny if God's just chilling, just watching, being like, I'm the clockmaker, I'm not getting involved. I'll be wearing my top hat over there. Now, the overarching theme for season 2's story involves injured pride. All of the major character arcs in it involve Charlie, Vox, Alistair, Lute, and Sarah, who are struggling to overcome their own issues with pride in one way or another. Charlie is obviously traumatized from the battle aftermath, but now she's redirecting her attention into protecting the newfound reputation of the hotel. She becomes obsessed with trying to find physical proof that Serpentius was redeemed in heaven. I accepted Jesus Christ into my heart and went to heaven, Charlie. But this obsession also leads her into becoming an insufferable, spoiled brat who refuses to listen to others. I know it's harsh for me to say that, but that's how I feel. I'm sorry. Like, she's extremely dense this season. Episode 3 is probably the worst episode of the entire series, and it has so many tone issues that it genuinely baffles me. Charlie comes across as a selfish idiot who has completely regressed from her experiences in season 1, with her immaturity souring the relationships she has with the other characters, especially Vaggie and Angel. I really hated how she treated him here. The hotel itself is the closest thing Angel has to a safe haven in hell, and it gives him some much needed distance from the abusive demands of his job. After her earlier run-in with Valentino and seeing Angel get a black eye for trying to defend her, Charlie was deeply apologetic once he came back to the hotel. The impact from that episode was so traumatic for both of them, and the audience too, that Charlie, of all people, never should have put Angel in that position again. Like, how is this the same character as in season 1?
I'm so sorry, Angel. I promise I won't ever.
Charlie, it's fine. I get it.
To see Charlie pressure Angel into being redeemed by using him as a prop was hard to watch. The train scene wasn't just unfunny and tasteless, it actively made me dislike Charlie as a character, which is a bummer because I like her a lot in season 1. And based on the public response online, well, quite a few other people felt the same way as I. I've seen some folks refer to her behavior in this season as a character flaw. But personally, I don't buy that. She should absolutely know better by now. Yeah, Charlie tends to get tunnel vision when she's focused on a goal, and she hasn't emotionally recovered from combat. I'm not disputing that. But for the entire season, she's been prioritizing her own ego and the reputation of the hotel, not the safety of the residents. Hell, she doesn't even really know the residents besides the main cast. I think there's a part where some guy's like, yeah, let's go get him. And she's like, who are you? And they're like, it's Rooster. He's been here the entire time. Charlie, maybe you should work at the Hazbin Hotel? Maybe? Try something? Whatever, I'm griping. Charlie's need to control the narrative has pushed back on Angel's boundaries even more. And once again, he has to be the bigger person by putting up with her nonsense.
Angel, Husk, I'm so glad you're okay. I'm sorry.
Charlie, it's okay. I know you didn't mean it. I'm fine.
But without a doubt, Vox was carrying season 2 on his back like Atlas. This entire season would not have worked without him. Vox had the best songs, the best set pieces, and he's the only member of the V's with a relatively clear motivation. He was an ambitious TV weatherman with delusions of grandeur, who murdered all of his competition to get to the top of the network. Also, he died by having a TV fall on his head, which is a bit on the nose, but hey, whatever. But Vox is a deeply insecure person who's only gotten worse the longer he's been in hell. His reasons for wanting to get to heaven are completely based around satisfying his own ego. Vox has no actual interest in redemption. He's a power-hungry overlord with a god complex who just sees heaven as an investment property. Seeing him in action and having so much fun screwing over the main cast actually made me like Vox more than Charlie. But I feel like that's gonna be a bad sign when you start rooting for the villains over the main character. Yes, the V's all get their time to shine here. Oh, whoops, wrong picture. I mean, Vox even says in the show, "Make hell great again," so it's kind of apt. Valentino and Velvet are here too, and they've been dragged into Vox's grand plan for conquering heaven. But they gradually start resenting Vox, who keeps using them as a means to an end for his own agenda. And he's not subtle about it either. This season is very firmly the Vox show, but we do manage to get more info on his story with Alistair. Apparently, Vox was quite the fanboy of Alistair back in the day, and wanted to pair up with him as a team. It's very heavily implied, too, that he was in love with Alistair, but he rejected Vox so harshly that the shame from it stuck with him forever, warping him into a megalomaniac obsessed with control and his image. The V's changed from a trio to a quartet with the inclusion of Alistair. Despite being the most powerful overlord in hell, his power has weakened greatly since losing the battle with Adam. And after getting one too many barbs with Lucifer, we find out Rosie owns his soul. And to get out of this arrangement, Alistair tries to find a way out of his deal by manipulating Vox, by essentially trolling him into making worse decisions. If Vox wasn't so desperate for his approval, this manipulation probably wouldn't have worked, but he falls for it every single time. I was honestly pretty frustrated by Alistair because he basically doesn't do anything for the first half of the season. The tension between him and Vox goes between petty arguments to aura-farming combat. Yeah, the animation choreography was cool, but I didn't really feel much while watching it. I saw someone on Twitter compare it to Peter Griffin fighting Homer. Now, this push and pull between the villains also gave me more of an appreciation for Adam from season 1 in retrospect. Mostly just because of how fun he is while still being easy to hate as the villain. Adam kinda was the glue holding everything together in season 1. Much like how Vox is during season 2. However, I am kind of concerned about exactly how the future seasons will be structured from this point on. It's funny, initially, I liked Adam, but I did not love Adam. But after season 2, I'm kind of on board with the Adam Nation. Aside from Vox, Lute had the most interesting character arc in the season to me. It's just a shame she got so little screen time. Lute goes full Joan of Arc and starts hallucinating Adam speaking to her from beyond the grave. More importantly, she is seriously going through it emotionally. After losing the battle in hell, her kinda sorta boyfriend Adam, her new leadership status, and her freaking arm, it's clear Lute is not handling her own grief properly. With all of these factors in place, she believes Adam's ghost is compelling her to act on her vengeful desires. This isn't helped by the fact that nobody really seems to care about Adam's death but her. Adam was the only person in heaven who seemed to take Lute seriously. Whatever relationship they had before was far from healthy, but at the very least, he listened to her and gave her a sense of purpose in heaven. But Lute's arc disappointed me the most out of the entire season. She had such a strong start during the trial, and easily had the best song in the entire season. But after that, she's not really allowed to do anything. By episode 8, I was begging the show, please, just let Lute kill somebody already. But that didn't happen. Once Abel finally mans up and tellers off, she backs down immediately and slinks back into heaven. Man, what a letdown. Apparently, she's being set up as the main villain of a future season, so we'll just have to wait and see how that pays off. Last but not least, we have Sarah, the head seraphim in heaven who may have accidentally approved a pointless 7-year-long genocide. It happens, right? I love her singing voice, but her arc felt incredibly unnecessary, as I just can't take her seriously as an authority figure. Sarah comes across as incompetent for not bothering to test out Adam's methods beforehand. She had 7 years to second guess what he was doing, and just ignored it until it became inconvenient for her to deal with? Sure, it demonstrates how Sarah's arrogance has clouded her objectively towards redemption, but for God's sake, Sarah, just take the L and admit you were wrong. For being the highest seraphim in heaven, she is an indecisive mess who always looks to others for answers. So as messy as all these arcs are, what really clinched my overall feelings for this season was how they handled the ending. After episode 6, I genuinely had no idea where the plot was going from there. Vox was out of control with this weird Jeff Bezos-coded laser cannon. The hotel gang went on a super secret mission to infiltrate V Tower, and mostly, they just needed a decent Wi-Fi signal to FaceTime with heaven. Now, I did not have an issue with Vox's emotional crash out, or how Alistair tricked him into breaking his deal. No, what I hated was how they used the power of friendship to magic the death cannon away. Not gonna lie, that was kinda lame. I'd expect an ending like that from Care Bears or My Little Pony. But here, a 16, 18 plus show? Yeah, let's just say it caught me off guard and not in a good way. So far, we've had 2 seasons wherein the strength of the narrative is mostly hinged on how engaging the villains are. But it's gotten to the point where their conflict is taking away from the time we need to see how effective the hotel is at actually rehabbing sinners, let alone getting to know and appreciate the residents as characters. However, I'm kind of concerned about exactly how the future seasons will be structured from this point on. Yes, the series is called Hazbin Hotel, but the hotel aspect, with the community and helping out people, feels more like an afterthought now. That was rushed through in season 1, and I'm sad to say it's still a lingering problem once again. Instead, the majority of the conflict comes from a lingering war with heaven that I personally think was introduced way too quickly in the story. There were a few key moments in season 2 that highlighted this issue also. And ironically, the more clarifications we got involving the exterminations, the more it weakened the impact of the narrative. In season 1, I figured the exterminations had been going on for quite a while. Not just to prevent an uprising or to deal with overpopulation, but to demonstrate how vindictive Adam was against hell after thousands of years. But no, we're told during the Katie Killjoy interview that they've only been happening for 7 years. Like, what? Isn't that kind of a drop in the bucket time-wise for angels and sinners? I get that the 7 years thing is supposed to tie in with the disappearance of Lilith and Alistair in hell, but it makes the circumstances feel way less critical. If the exterminations have been going on for well over hundreds of years, I would absolutely understand why Lucifer was so depressed, or why Charlie felt the odds of making her case with heaven were insurmountable. As it is though, this detail made her motivation seem much weaker because we don't have clear-cut rules for how redemption actually works. It's supposed to be the core argument for why the hotel works and what it takes for a soul to shift from hell up to heaven. But the methods for determining that are murky at best, and we're no closer to figuring that out by the end of the season. I just find it all kind of unsatisfying. Clearly establishing the rules for how the main conflict works is pretty essential for consistency in storytelling. And when it's not obvious, it really sticks out to me as a viewer. People would like to know what the expectations and consequences of the world are, so we can see how the characters screw up and if they actually learn from their mistakes. Without some kind of logical framework to explain how this world works, it makes a lot of the characters' choices feel convoluted and arbitrary. Charlie's biggest arc in the season involves her not being able to contact heaven for proof of Serpentius being redeemed. But this makes zero sense sense because we've already established that there's a heaven embassy in hell. It's right at the corner of Porno Row and Arson Alley. Did Charlie just forget it exists? Charlie went there in episode 1 to have her first meeting with Adam. A meeting that he did not even bother to show up for physically, instead communicating with her via a hologram. But why wouldn't she be able to use the same technology to get visual proof of Serpentius? They set it up almost immediately in season 1. Why not have her revisit the same location for a different purpose? Vox still could have found a way to sabotage it, or doctor the footage to benefit his cause. Lucifer would have happily made the call to heaven on her behalf, and we could have avoided the entire conflict with Charlie deciding she hates her dad again. But that obviously didn't happen. I think what bothered me the most about this season is how repetitive the story beats felt from season 1. And when I say repetitive, I mean direct moments of the characters going through the motions of things they already explored last season. Charlie trying and failing to sell the hotel as a concept. Vaggy's advice going horribly wrong in practice. Husk singing about his struggles with addiction. Alistair having a big epic battle and getting his ass handed to him. Angel being physically abused by the V's. That's just a handful of examples, but they were the ones that stuck with me the most. As expected, the soundtrack is still pretty fun. But again, the songs are notably weaker this season. Aside from 2 or 3 bangers like Gravity or Love in a Bottle, they aren't as catchy as last season. Instead, there's more of an emphasis on your standard Broadway-style numbers that don't have as much replayability outside of watching the episodes. Songs that work in the context of the story, but don't stick with you as much as Stayed Gone or Loser Baby. That being said, as far as soundtracks go, Hazbin had some seriously tough competition this year. The soundtrack for K-pop Demon Hunters is still going strong over 5 months after it was first released back in June. Still, it's pretty ironic and oddly hilarious that the Hanmoon is strong enough to hold back other demonic voices from reaching the top of the charts too. Overall, Hazbin Hotel is currently a very uneven show with unbalanced priorities. The main pillars of the series are the strength of the character designs, the environments, and the music. They're all great, but the biggest outlier that affects everything else, in my opinion, is a lack of focus with the scripts. After watching both seasons again for this review, I get the overall impression that Hazbin Hotel has a big setup and payoff issue. We're talking like 10% setup and 90% payoff. And ideally, you want to have them as close as 50-50 as humanly possible. Hazbin spends much less time setting up the rules or foreshadowing a conflict in the story. Instead, they mostly focus on the spectacle of having big character moments or musical set pieces that look great, but make less sense the more you think about them. I wish those moments felt more earned by having more build-up to them and the story itself. I've seen a fair amount of comments from fans stating that the show would have worked better with more episodes, or if they had longer runtimes. But I don't think so, honestly, because the same issues would still persist. And if anything, they could get even worse. Each episode got additional time as well, ostensibly to handle this issue. They're still abiding by Amazon's weird mandate for 8 episodes per season. But hey, at least the episodes are longer this time around, plus a much longer finale. Unlike the breakneck speed of season 1, the first half of season 2 is surprisingly meandering. Nothing really happens in the show until around episode 4, when Alistair teams up with Vox. But I'm not crazy about how often they resorted to including additional songs to fill in that extra runtime. I get that it's a musical, but they seriously needed that extra time to fix the plot contrivances that plagued the story. For example, what was the point of having a 1-month time jump between seasons 1 and 2? It doesn't really benefit the story at all. It actively makes the characters seem stupid and careless. So that means that Serpentius was in heaven for over a month without the Seraphim questioning his ascension? Was he chained up the entire time? If so, why didn't we see it? Also, if Emily believed in Charlie's cause so much, why wouldn't she immediately contact her in hell about redemption working? That seems like a huge oversight on Emily's part. She's excitable, but she isn't reckless. We don't see Sarah forbidding her to contact Charlie before the trial. Instead, it seems like Emily straight up forgot to contact her and told Charlie through the portal last minute. It's little things like that which lead to much bigger problems and implications down the line. I wanted more of the story to expand on the emotional bond between the hotel residents, but instead, there was a bigger emphasis on highlighting moments tailored for the fandom, especially when it comes to shipping discourse. I'm not kidding, roughly half of the songs from this season are specifically included for ship pairings. Cherry Bomb and Serpentious, Alistair and Rosie, Lute and Adam, Charlie and Vaggie, Alistair and Vox, Angel and Husk. And if you're into that, hey, that's fine. They obviously know their audience well, and I get why they did it. But many of those songs didn't enhance the depth of the story for me. It came across as pretty direct fan service that impacted the pacing more than I liked. Personally, I hope they're able to prioritize simplifying the story in future seasons. There's absolutely a compelling story here, but it's so bogged down with additional plot threads that make keeping track of these characters more of a headache than it needs to be. But once again, I cannot overstate how impressive Hazbin Hotel is with its origin story, journey, and success. Its production is extremely inspirational, and I don't want to give the impression that it's a bad show. I just think there's some room for improvement with the story and the pacing. That's it. Regardless, what the team is pulling off is nothing short of a miracle, especially on such a worldwide scale. I went to Level Up, a convention in Vegas earlier this year, and I saw thousands of Hazbin Hotel fans. So the show is obviously doing something right, even if I have my own thoughts about Season 2. I will say this though, I'm still interested in seeing where this story goes in Season 3, so I would consider that a win. But hey folks, those are just my thoughts on Season 2. What did you all think? Tell me down below in the comments, and I'll see you all next time.